So today I want to talk about why I created this channel. But to do so, I have to go back to 1990, because that's actually when my Capcom fandom kicked off. See, when I was a kid, my parents would go to the laundromat every couple weeks, and they would obviously take me as well, and they actually had some arcade games. And one of the arcade games was the original Street Fighter machine with the giant pneumatic buttons. And I don't really remember too much about it now because I was maybe barely 2 years old. But I do know that my parents would bring crates for me to stand on so I could play it. And I liked the game, but as I said, I don't remember too much about back then. But then the next year, my dad bought me an NES, and he bought me 2 games to go along with it.
Nice.
Mega Man 3, which I loved, and Strider, which I kind of liked, but not as much as Mega Man 3. I was mesmerized by how Mega Man 3 played, and I liked the aspect of collecting every Robot Master's weapons to use against him. And then the next year, my dad got bonus money, and he took part of it and bought me a Super Nintendo. And the first game that he got me was Street Fighter 2. And obviously, being that young, I couldn't really do any of the special moves except the ones where you mash buttons, but I still had fun with the game anyway. And basically, after that, every console I got, I would ask my dad to buy whatever games had the Capcom logo on them. And starting around 1995 or 1996 is when I started getting imports too. And we would mostly get them through Tomo, but then later on we get them through Rhino Games, which is basically a franchise that specializes in import games. But as far as I know, there's none of them that still exist. I think they're all closed down now. But by the time I got to be 10 years old in 1998, I had about 100 Capcom games across 3 different regions. Which, thinking about that, is pretty impressive for a little 10-year-old kid. And that was actually the time that I decided I wanted to collect Capcom games almost exclusively. So when the Dreamcast came out in 1999, those were the first games I tried to go after. And one of my first games on Dreamcast was actually Power Stone. I put countless hours into it. And then Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out, and I played the crap out of that game too. And whatever Capcom game that would come out, whether it was an American one, a European one, or a Japanese one, I'd try to find some way to play it. And then in my teenage years, I discovered a forum called SNKCapcom.com, and I actually met some other Capcom super fans there, like 81, who's still around. He has a page on Facebook now called Arc81, and he posts all sorts of playthroughs and tidbits and trivia about different retro games. And he was super knowledgeable when he was on SNKCapcom.com. I actually learned some stuff from him. And I also met Sano, who's a moderator on Shoryuken.com's forums, and he actually runs my sister page on Facebook called Capcompendium, and he's also very knowledgeable, and I learned quite a bit from him too. And for a time from 2007 to about 2009, I was a moderator on Capcom Unity's forums, which are also now defunct. They've been gone for maybe about 3 or 4 months now. I actually got to talk to Seth Killian and some other Capcom employees at the time. And what's amazing about it is that over the years I've had to either downsize or sell off my collection, but I always try to buy the Capcom stuff back almost immediately. And now I'm in a better financial situation, so I can buy almost any game that I want to. Might have to save up for some, but in the end I always get what I'm looking for. And that brings me to why I wanted to create a Capcom focused channel. There's a lot of YouTube channels centered around game companies like SNK, Nintendo, Konami, and Sega, but not really centered around only Capcom products. And I always thought that was interesting because Capcom has so many beloved franchises. And even if there are channels dedicated to them, it's usually for only 1 or 2 game series of theirs, like Monster Hunter or Resident Evil. But I feel like they really have a lot more to offer than just the mainstream games like Monster Hunter, Street Fighter, and Devil May Cry. So that's basically one of the reasons I wanted to create a channel. And I've actually had this idea to make a channel centered around Capcom games and accessories for many years, at least since the dawn of YouTube. But I didn't follow through on it because I didn't have good video editing software, a good camera, and nor did I really see a need to create an actual channel for Capcom products, because I was posting mainly on forums and Facebook at the time about these games. But then earlier this year, I basically changed my mind. And what made me change my mind was seeing a channel on YouTube called NeoGeoNow. And what NeoGeoNow is a SNK fan channel, and it's run by one man. His name is Nabil, and he uploads at least a couple videos a week, and he always plays SNK games on stream, talks about SNK news, unboxes games, makes character history videos. And I'm just like, man, I really want to make a Capcom channel that's just like this. And if you like SNK games, please go check that channel out. It's amazing. And it's kind of funny that NeoGeoNow was the catalyst I needed to make a channel focused around Capcom games, since SNK is basically their old arcade rival. But my channel will focus on not only mainstream Capcom games, but also the more obscure ones. And as I get better at video editing and talking on camera, that'll open up the type of videos that I can create. And really, my ambition is to just be a jack of all trades when it comes to Capcom titles. And I should really say right now that if you want more content, please also check out my Facebook page. It's called All Capcom Everything. I post mainly about more obscure titles on there and trivia about different Capcom games. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video. See ya.